Original video animation, never aired on TV but released via DVD, VHS, and of course, Laserdisc. I aim to cover the old, the obscure, and the otherwise interesting, packaged together with no rhyme or reason on this OVA odyssey. My search for the best of the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. And maybe the 2010s, I don't know, I'm still debating whether or not to include O&A. For now though, let's keep this retro, for the most part. Every now and then I get this dreadful feeling that I've allowed the Zoomer TikTok brain rot to absolutely ruin me. That's why about once a month I throw my phone across the room and put on an old movie to make sure I haven't lost the ability to focus and truly appreciate the thing I'm looking at. If you're curious, the last movie was Excalibur from 1981. It was pretty good. I bring this up because watching Yokohama is a very similar experience, at least for me. There aren't any flashy fights or rapid jump cuts. Things are calm, peaceful, very quiet. The story follows Alpha, an android living out in the Yokohama countryside, running a cafe and passing the time taking pictures with her new camera. It's an OVA that encourages you to reflect on the transient nature of life. Alpha doesn't age, but the world around her continues to change. She never thought much about her surroundings or the people around her. Now, that's not to say she was cold and standoffish, it's quite the opposite in fact. But she always took things for granted. It's only after she gets the camera that she starts to view things through a different lens. There are hints of some calamity that's happened in the past, causing many villages and towns to fall under the ocean. Androids aren't common, but they live alongside humans with no issue. The tech is familiar, but slightly changed in some way. The world feels oddly nostalgic, and the soothing music paired with all the beautiful backgrounds makes for a relaxing viewing experience. Plus, Alpha's pretty cute. There are 4 episodes in total, 2 from the 90s and 2 from the 2000s. Personally, I prefer the first set of episodes, but the second 2 are a little more eventful. They're each based on stories from the manga, which had a pretty decent run from 94 to 2006, so if you like the vibe and want more, then go ahead and give it a read. The art is very good, just like in the anime, but now there's an actual overarching plot. I haven't read it myself yet, but there's this one guy on Twitter who I still post from all the time, and he seems to swear by the manga, so I'm sure it's solid. Maybe it's not your cup of tea, or coffee in this case, but it is mine, and this is my video, so frankly, I don't care what you think. I will now be discussing a 90s sci-fi anime with spaceships and cool characters directed by anime legend Shinichiro Watanabe. Not that one. Macross Plus, the story of rival test pilots and an AI idol. Isamu, Gould, and Myung Fei Long all used to be childhood friends once upon a time, but now one's an asshole and the other's a dick, and the girl is a woman. They haven't seen each other in 7 years and left on pretty bad terms, but they all reunite when Sharon Apple, the AI idol, performs on the planet Eden. And it's a good thing too, because there's some questionable things going on with Myung and her virtual idol project, and it may just be up to her old friends Isamu and Gould to sort things out. Now Gould is the more mature of the two, but sometimes he lets his emotions get the better of him. Isamu is our reckless, lecherous, maverick main character, and he's voiced by Bryan Cranston in the English dub. At least he is in the first 3 episodes. In the 4th and final, he got swapped out with David Hayter. Apparently they ran into some licensing issues with the music, so they had to re-record all the lines and Malcolm's dad wasn't available anymore. It's a big old bummer too, because Walter White really did a good job making me actually like this scumbag.
Well, I suppose her virginity would be kind of hard to get.
Visually, Macross Plus is stunning. Smooth fights and beautiful movements the whole way through. So much detail gets packed into every scene, it's probably one of the best looking anime of the 90s. And it's got a soundtrack to match that. That ending song is a banger. I also just love these character designs too. I said it before, but I'm not happy that modern anime discriminates against noses. It's an injustice, I tell you. It does not make her cuter, it makes her a mouth breather. Disgusting. But now look at the beak on this bird. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Ehad. Normally, I try to avoid bringing up OVAs that are a part of some larger narrative in a well-established franchise. But while Macross Plus is technically a sequel to the Macross TV show from the 80s, it has almost nothing to do with that series. This one stands on its own completely. You won't be the least bit confused if you didn't watch anything else beforehand. The only thing you may not realize at the start is that this guy has green hair and pointy ears because he's part alien, but that's about it. Now, I've thrown a lot of praise around at this one, but one thing I won't praise is the story. It's not very original, and certainly not the main draw. But you can kind of say the same thing about most of Watanabe's work, so I wouldn't let that discourage you from enjoying this one.
Alvin, are you gonna kill us both, you crazy bastard?
Did you say faster?
There are two versions to watch, the OVA series and the movie. They both cover the same things, although the movie has some new scenes, but I'm not sure if an English dub actually exists for the film, so if you're more into that, then maybe just stick with the OVA. The final OVA based on a Masamune manga. I ended up covering things in reverse release order, but it's not like they're set in the same universe or anything like that. At least I don't think so. Black Magic M66. What's the M stand for? Mario, apparently. That's the name of one of the robots that survives a military plane crash with orders to assassinate its maker's granddaughter still in its head from training. The military tries its best to keep things contained and the public in the dark, but Sybil, a freelance reporter and token tomboy for this batch of OVA, isn't going to let her biggest story yet slip through her fingers. But things quickly get out of hand, and Sybil ends up having to rise to the occasion to protect the robot's target against all odds. So basically it's Terminator without the time travel and terrible sequels. A very entertaining 50 minutes that I wish was just a little longer because it's a lot of fun. It's got the classic Masamune brand of comedy with designs that speak for themselves. The animation is top-notch, probably because it was directed by our old friend Kitakubo. And despite its short runtime, I found myself getting attached to these characters. Sybil's a cool cutie, her partner's sleazy and charming, and even the military guys are pretty alright.
報道関係者としちゃ失格なんだろうな。そういうことしてるってのは。でも俺は尊敬するぜ。
Had it been a little longer, we might have seen more of this cyberpunk world, but even as is, it makes for a suitable setting. I don't think this OVA is as good as Dominion, but it's probably better than Appleseed. Of course, I think all three are worth checking out, but it's only natural Dominion reigns supreme. I mean, it got way more time to leave more of an impact. Honestly though, I'm a little surprised more hasn't been done with Black Magic. I mean, Dominion has several entries, Appleseed got even more, and they keep pumping out another Ghost in the Shell every few years. So why does Black Magic gotta stay in the back of the bus? That's not cool anymore, man. The truth be told, I don't know if I'd want a remake or anything like that. Say it with me now, old equals good, new equals bad. But at the very least, Black Magic deserves to be talked about more. It was the first thing Masamune ever made, and without it, we would have never gotten the stuff people know him best for. So let's all show a little love to the OG.
バカ、まだ早いよ。
Is Nobunaga Oda really a man? Or is he a devil?
In 1580, Oda Nobunaga ruled a unified Japan with an iron fist. But what the liberal history books will leave out is that old Nobunaga had an immortal cyborg samurai outfitted with alien technology who nearly exterminated all the ninja clans. Yes, this anime is stupid, and that's exactly why I like it.
Stand firm!
One of you individuals recommended me this one, and I was not disappointed. This is some quality schlock, but that means I really don't have that much to say. The characters are barely characters, the story makes little sense, and the English dub is about what you'd expect.
He's a monster! The ninja killer Jinai is immortal!
But the action goes pretty hard and the whole thing is only 40 minutes, just long enough to keep things from getting stale. I guess I can mention that this was based on a manga from the legendary Go Nagai, if you couldn't already tell from all the eyes and sideburns. Other than that though, I mean, it's gory. Like, comedically gory. It's not that hard to track down either. The whole thing's on YouTube if you're curious. Put it on the next time you eat lunch, or, well, maybe not.
The pattern of movement and are able to determine the alignment of bases.
Biohunter starts off with a sex scene, but don't worry, the parties involved are punished for their sins. A mysterious virus is affecting people all over Japan. The infected experience mild headaches, shortness of breath, and an unholy urge to devour man flesh. Also, they transform into demons. It's a demon virus. Koshigaya is a part-time professor, full-time demon hunter, and his partner Komoda is also a scientist and a demon hunter. But when I say demon hunter for him, I mean he's a hunter who's also a demon.
Gonna be a little rough with you, but under the circumstances, can't help it.
The plot is very simple. A beautiful young woman asks for their help in finding her grandfather, and they end up fighting for their lives against a politician and a demon, but I repeat myself. Aside from this conflict, Komoda has to do battle with his own inner demon. He can't let himself catch feelings for anyone or transform for too long, otherwise, who knows what's gonna happen.
Komoda!
If you're expecting a bunch of demon fights in this one, then you're gonna be a little disappointed. The beginning and end have some gory encounters, but the middle section is dialogue heavy and relatively uneventful. It wouldn't be that much of an issue if there was more to the OVA than just the one episode, but despite an ending that sets things up for another go, no such sequel exists. What you're left with is a short film that feels like a pilot for a series that never took off. It's a shame because the whole biodemon thing was an interesting angle, and the animation was solid through and through. I will say though, at times, Biohunter could be a little,
Stop it!
Biohunter is nothing special, but it's an old school Madhouse OVA, so it's not bad either. I like the more realistic look of the characters, and Komoda's demon form wasn't half bad. I did expect it to be a lot more edgy, which is why I watched it dubbed despite the very Japanese setting and characters.
I'm professional when I date my students.
But even still, it checked off most of the boxes that matter to me, so I feel alright with saying it's worth a watch if you have an hour to spare.
Hey, tell you what, why don't you buy me dinner?
Because I'm tired and pissed off, and you're a cop and I'm a con, and because it's raining and I forgot my umbrella, and most of all, I'm broke.
The year is 2808, and 3 convicted felons serving a collective sentence of 1,000 years are recruited into a special cyber police force. In exchange for his service, each criminal turned cop will have a couple of years or so taken off his life sentence. However, if they refuse to protect and serve the good people of Oedo, or take too long to clean things up, then the collars around their necks might just explode. Cyber City Oedo 808 follows the 3 amigos, Sengoku, Gogol, and Benton. Sengoku is a loner crackshot with the longest life sentence out of the 3. He's a real jerk with a foul mouth and a drinking problem, but also a softer side hidden down under. Gogol is the muscle and also the brains, an expert hacker who can be calm one moment and utterly ruthless the next. He's also rocking some cyber shades and a bunch of scars he got from reading too much. Lastly, there's the pretty boy, Benton, stealthy and agile. He's also into astrology and makeup. I'm told he's a Bishonen, a word that doesn't translate too well into English, but I believe the closest translation would be fabulous androgynous gentleman. There are 3 episodes of Cyber City, and each of them is centered around one of the 3 main characters. Sengoku's episode is the first and is a simple introduction to the basic day in the life of a cyber policeman. The other 2 episodes are more tailored to their respective characters and also flesh out this futuristic Tokyo. Charges and trials are optional, the military is doing whatever they feel like, and even mythical monsters start showing up again. Yeah, episode 3 has the gang fighting a vampire.
This is the 3rd one with neck wounds like this. I have to conclude, it's a vampire.
And while it is pretty crazy, it's not as crazy as the English dub. They, took some liberties with the script.
やれやれ参ったぜ。吸血鬼探しとはな、恐ろしいぜまったく。
いや、人間の生き血を吸い永遠に生きねばならん定めを背負った悲しい怪物だ。伝説ではな。
Hey, Benton.
Don't crap your pants if you see a vampire out there.
Get lost. You wouldn't recognize a goddamn vampire if one jumped up and bit you on the end of your fucking dick. So just get off my back.
This was one of those infamous manga entertainment dubs from the late 80s and early 90s. Incredibly vulgar, downright comedic with all the unnecessary profanity. And I kinda love it. And I think that's the general consensus, but there's always that one guy who refuses to watch anything dubbed because he hates having fun. It's been a while, but I have seen the original sub version as well, and I remember it being alright, but the dub is just so entertaining, you have to at least give it a chance. It also came packaged with a new musical score, at least in the UK version. They actually just released a new Blu-ray version a couple years back that did an HD scan of the film source instead of doing a simple upscale. So basically now's the perfect time to watch this thing if you haven't already. Though it can be crude and crass, it's got fun characters and each episode looks great. It's a classic cyberpunk anime for a reason.
出してしまってで行ってこい行ってこいって強引にでも少しは興味もあったんです決定いいかおめえが今日から対デモンシードの切り札だ
This one is an enjoyable bit of nonsense. A terrorist group calling itself the Demon Seed, named after its leader, Dr. Demon, is robbing local businesses and making fools out of the police. This outfit is outfitted with high-tech mecha suits that allow them to get away with murder, although they never actually kill anyone because it's not that kind of show. Instead, the day is always saved by a timid high school girl with unbelievable superhuman strength. It's a short 2-episode OVA adapting a short manga from the guy who made Birdie and Patlabor, so you can expect the comedy to land and the characters to charm. I really like Marin. Her name is just one letter off from moron, and that's pretty much how I describe her. Look at this girl, there is not a single thought in that head. Very cute. But she's not the only one who's special. I am of course talking about the agents of the Special Operations Anti-Demon Seed Team. They're all a bunch of government goobers, except for the leader, who does a decent job managing Marin and her idol career. Oh yeah, I forgot, she's an idol too because the department has no budget.
出産後はおむつの CM 出演とすでにスケジュールびっしりなんです。
なんだその不確定要素だらけの予定は
課長の企画書に書いてあったんです。
Assemble Insert is dumb fun. There's plenty of slapstick and even some pop culture parody moments, as well as a live-action commercial for some reason. It's pretty similar to Prefectural Earth Defense Force, which we covered in episode 2 of this series, but I will say the animation isn't as remarkable. Plus, there's only really the one fight from episode 1. That being said, I think the humor hits a bit harder in this one, and it's got some great insert songs sung by Marin, so it's definitely worth checking out if you're looking for something short and sweet. What do you get when the lead director of the Monogatari series does a sci-fi comedy starring a tarred teacher, an athletic adolescent, and a mysterious mecha mobster? You get an underrated masterpiece that may or may not be missing one or two pieces. Tenamonia Voyagers is one of the more obscure anime I've seen. It doesn't even have its own Wikipedia article. Even Assemble Insert had that much. I really have no idea why it's so obscure because it's really good. The animation is clean and fluid, lots of pretty colors and stylish sequences. The story is nothing special, but that's okay because you're not really watching this one for that anyway. Basically, Ayako just got her teaching license, but the job market was so scuffed she had to take a position in space instead of on Earth. And by the time she got there, the school had closed down, leaving her stranded and unemployed. There's also a transfer student from Earth who's in the same boat. The two of them run into some girl who's already on the run, and due to a series of misunderstandings, they end up fugitives too. Their only hope is this legal loophole in space law that allows anyone to be acquitted of their every crime if they land on Earth. So each episode they edge ever closer to their destination, never quite reaching it because of all the hardship along the way, most of it self-inflicted. But now the biggest hardship is experienced by you, the viewer, who will fall in love with this hidden gem that never got a real ending. You see, the DVDs didn't sell enough to justify more episodes, so things just kinda end. Even the narrator isn't so sure what to make of this.
その後、彼女たちがどうなるのか、それは神ならぬ者の知る由もない。なぜか、神。
It's a real shame because I love the look of this show. Peak 90s animation, if you ask me. Cool backgrounds, great action, and so much attention given to the little things. The characters aren't complex in the slightest, but they're endearing and charming and play off each other well. The comedy is pretty solid too. There are a few Oriental-oriented jokes that get a little lost in translation, but for the most part, it's standard slapstick and general tomfoolery. But now comedy is subjective, and it may not be to your liking. I saw a review where a guy claimed it was Japanese Family Guy.
モグラみたいな真似を。こりゃインド人もびっくりやな。
I love this one a lot, but it just really sucks how it got canceled. If I had to guess why, I wouldn't say it was because the people didn't like it enough. I think the more likely answer is that it was a little too expensive to make and not that easy to market. The first episode might lead you to believe this was a mecha series, but it's more like a comedy show that happens to have a mecha pilot. And at this point, we already had more accessible TV space comedies, so Voyagers kind of fell to the wayside. It was the late 90s after all, the OVA scene wasn't exactly thriving. But man, did they really try to sell those DVDs with that last episode. There is a lot of fan service in that one. Do not watch this just for that, please. Have a little dignity. It's a shame this one didn't get the full 6-episode treatment and a satisfying conclusion, but at the same time, these idiots never making it back to Earth is a pretty fitting final joke.
ああ、コスモナウトリシュテア号だね。国連軍の。この町からも出たのかな。選抜メンバーが。
Voices of a Distant Star, a love story that follows two childhood friends separated by space. Some aliens attack humanity and the girl gets drafted into the Space Force because of her mecha skills. She tries to continue her relationship with the boy who's still on Earth, but they can only ever communicate via text messages. And as the war rages on, the girl is sent further and further into space. Each message she sends takes even longer to reach Earth. Has he forgotten about her? Did he find someone else? Is she still alive up there? Is she ever coming back? Yeah, this one's a sad one, and it's also only 20 minutes long, so I don't want to sit here and spoil the whole thing. There isn't that much to say about the story or the characters, but what you may have noticed is that this one doesn't look like other anime. And that's because it was made independently by a guy who isn't really that important. I think he made a couple of indie films later on or something. Maybe one day he'll make it big. Voices of a Distant Star definitely has a look to it that may not be for everyone, especially when that early 2000 CGI pops up. What did you expect? It was made on this thing. It's a neat little passion project inspired by Makoto Shinkai's own experiences texting his girlfriend while he was away doing the 9-to-5. The two of them actually voiced the two respective characters in the original version, but when it came time to do the DVD version, they got some actual Japanese voice actors to fill the roles. Something that only happened because of how popular Voices of a Distant Star became. This short story ended up spawning a whole bunch of things, probably because it resonates with both the fake cell and the sensitive young man. I don't think Voices of a Distant Star is life-changing by any stretch, but I do find these one-man shows very interesting. If you're curious about another anime made by just one guy, then also check out Senko Roll, but you know, after this one. I wouldn't call myself a fan of the magical girl genre. The only Maho shoujo anime I've seen is Madoka Magica, and I didn't watch that for the magical girls, I watched it for the other thing. This is not Madoka Magica, but I'm pretty sure it's darker than Sailor Moon. I don't know, I never watched it. But this is a very solid OVA. A little confusing towards the start, but if you stick with it, it'll all make sense by the end. Tiara is a girl from the Guardian world, a world similar to ours, but one that exists in another dimension, and most of the people use magic and tame spirits and whatnot. The source of magical power for that world is this painting called the Throne of Yord, which was recently stolen away by Tiara's ex-boyfriend and taken to Earth. Not much is actually known about the Throne of Yord, but Tiara is told that if it's away from home for too long, or gets destroyed at some point, then all of Guardian World will be undone. The elders task Tiara and her furry familiar with the retrieval of this magical artifact. It sounds simple enough, but that's because I didn't mention the other magical girl who swaps sides after coming to Earth, or the fact that Tiara's been talking with a mysterious someone who's trapped in the stolen painting. This otherwise straightforward search and retrieval operation turns into quite the messy affair. A very pretty messy affair, however. Shamanic Princess, Shamanic, whatever. Shamanic Princess is a visual treat. Highly atmospheric with all the shadows and rain and the dreamlike soundtrack playing over the magical battles in this cozy little European-style town. Now, I said earlier that I'm not really a magical girl kind of guy, and you should know this by now, but I'm not too keen on moe stuff either. But I actually do like the characters in Shamanic Princess. Design-wise, I feel a little creeped out by these big ol' eyes, but it's very much in line with the eerie tone of the OVA. What surprised me the most, however, was the characters themselves. They're all pretty solid and get just enough time to be properly fleshed out too. Their motivations are clear and their relationships make sense. Now, to be honest, I kind of expected Tiara to be some annoying tsundere tramp, but she's not half bad. The whole elemental summoning thing she and the other magical girls got going for them is pretty cool too. Some of the creatures summoned look gnarly, and there's plenty of illusions and magical trickery to keep things interesting. Oh, look at that, the demon Tiara tames is gay and abuses children. What did they mean by this? I mentioned Shamanic Princess is a little confusing, and that's in large part due to the episode order. The first episode starts with Tiara already on her mission, which comes to its end in episode 4. We don't get the backstory to what's going on until the last 2 episodes. The lack of context adds more questions, which you may find annoying, but I'd argue it made for a more emotionally satisfying final episode, which picks up right before episode 1 starts. It also made me want to rewatch this thing on the spot, but I resist the urge so I could pump out this video in a timely manner. It's no problem, by the way, just keep this thing playing on repeat in the background for a couple hours. Good action, great atmosphere, fantastic artwork, and a story that wraps up quickly and completely. I highly recommend it, and if you look like this, my DMs are open. And those are all the OVAs I have this go around. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the other episodes of this OVA Odyssey, and until next time, Ave Maria, Deus Vult, and a big thank you to all the cultured.